Welcome to the Flying Octopus podcast, offering a new perspective on Red Wings hockey, as well as all the important news from around the NHL. And now, here are your hosts, Tony Wolak, Devin Little, and Evan Sabourin.
Well, I woke up in a good mood this morning. I put my iPhone on while I was getting ready in the shower, and first song I hit, I put on random, and guess what song came up? Eminem's Without Me. I was like, oh, that's a good sign. Got in my car, drove to work. I live in Los Angeles, so I didn't think it was a coincidence, but Journey came on. Don't Start Believing. So I'm like, oh, it's definitely going to be a good start tonight. Gonna be a good day in Detroit. And start off with the Tigers falling apart, and then the Red Wing game came, and then here we are. Tough opening night, guys. Tough one. Tough loss. All the problems we've talked about recently in the past season, goaltending and defense came to fruition, and it wasn't good, guys. Where'd you guys watch a game?
I watched it from the lovely South Lyon, Michigan, home of Trey Kenneth III Augustine.
It was a tough one. Welcome to episode 6 of the Flying Octopus podcast, guys. Before we get started, I'm going to remind everyone where to find us. You can find us on YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify, or follow us on Twitter and Threads at Flying Octopod. Tony, I'm going to start with you. It wasn't pretty tonight. Defensively, goaltending. Give me your thoughts about what were your takeaways after this, abysmal performance to start the season.
It's one game, but man, was that not a good start. I mean, the first period was good. Don't get me wrong, but man, I was hoping to start the season better than that. Just some anger that the Red Wings missed the playoffs by the narrowest of margins and ready to prove the doubters wrong. And wouldn't you know it, the same issues as the team had last year just reared their ugly heads again. Not what I was hoping for sure.
Yeah, the first period they came out buzzing, right away. DeBrincat scores, and they had so many chances in that first period. And then the second period came, and defensive meltdown after defensive meltdown. Devin, what did you see there from, our biggest concern that we've talked about in the last year is just defensive positioning, and we saw everyone just out of place tonight.
Yeah, no, I like how Tony kind of presented that, because you kind of entering this season, you can kind of point to that blue line and say that probably is going to be a cause for concern this season. But you hope opening night that you can at least pretend that it's not going to be an issue, and for one night the issues aren't there. But it's like Tony said, it was all the same issues, and it's defensemen being out of position, it's goaltenders not making relatively routine saves. It's pretty much anything that was happening in the defensive end wasn't happening the way it should happen. And yeah, it's just kind of you'd like to think that you start the season with a clean slate, new year, whatever, but to have it be the same issues from last season that ultimately doomed them, it kind of prevents them from having a clean slate. And I think game 2 is going to be a big one for them in terms of just kind of refreshing and trying to treat that as game 1, because if they have the same results in game 2, I can't imagine what social media is going to sound like and just what people are going to be talking about, because it's game 1 and oh my God, you would think that we are in game 70 right now and every game matters, because holy cow.
Yeah, I mean, offensively, it was kind of a mixed bag, right? Because the power play had some really great movement. They scored 3 goals, which normally is solid enough. It gives you a chance. But yeah, I just popped up Natural Stat Trick after the game, and to see that in terms of high danger chances, Pittsburgh outchanced the Red Wings 11-3 at 5-on-5. It's come on, that's both poor defense and not so great offense against a team that played last night that got shut out 6-0. And I get it. They're angry. They want to, show that they're for real and want to like support their rookie goalie making his NHL debut. But like, I know Yzerman wanted to have a deeper team offensively, but what was your thought on the offensive game tonight?
I I liked your assessment. You know, I thought there was good looks in the power play, and obviously DeBrincat with 2 goals. That's a good night for him, singularly. Tarasenko had a really good goal as well. Like, guys that you were expecting to score scored, so that's good. But I almost feel like you couldn't really focus on the offense as much as you might have wanted to, because the defense was just so glaringly bad that it's like you just kind of your eyes shoot to it, you know. I will say, just in general, I think the bottom 6 really just kind of were ghosts, for lack of better words. Like, I noticed them when they were on the ice, but they didn't really do anything. It was really very much the heavy hitters trying to do things and sometimes doing things. And that's what you expect out of the top 6. But I kind of think that underscores what we were talking about in weeks prior, where this lineup pretty much has 2 lines that can score and 2 lines that can't. And if those 2 lines that can score aren't dominating, boy, you better hope those 2 defensive lines are dominating, because otherwise you get results like this one.
And that was something where, Rasmussen was put in front of for the power play for a little bit, and I mean, what a goal it would have been if Rasmussen or Fisher or Kopp could have been able to dent the twine, get a real identity line goal out of those guys. Mott, Veleno, and Berggren, the little bit of ice time they had, they were all right. It was kind of evident that with the amount of shifts that they were getting, that they weren't going to be able to do all that much. But I agree with you that it had to be a game. It has to be a game. It has to be a season where there's more contributions than just the superstars, because otherwise, you're already going to get people say, bring up Casper, bring up Mazur, or bring up Danielson, bring up so-and-so from Grand Rapids, and they're not going to be wrong if 10 games from now we're talking about the same thing. In the first 10 games, I mean, it's a grind, really. We're playing 3 and 5 just to start off, and then after that, it's it's the home and home versus the Rangers, the home and home versus the Predators. I'll peek at my desktop here. Then you've got the Islanders, Patrick Waugh's Islanders, the Devils at home, Sabres, Oilers, Winnipeg Jets, and it gets worse in November. So, I mean, it's just a situation where this one was like meeting up with your old girlfriend for a hookup and finding out that all the bad things that she that you made you break up with her are still there. I don't know if that's the most elegant way of putting it, but yeah, this was shitty.
We've had so far, George.
No, and that's the perfect analogy, George. And as we shift to goaltending here, that's obviously the issue that we talked about a lot last season. Billy Husso looked pretty decent this preseason, had some really good starts, and even the start against the big game he had against Pittsburgh. But tonight we saw something a little different. George, how worried are you about the Red Wings goaltender situation? I know it's one game, but still, you saw those bad goals that Husso can let in at times, and I just didn't think that was the game you wanted to start for him to have to start out for his confidence issues, and it wasn't pretty.
No, and as somebody who is on an anxiety medication, it was not helpful toward my anxiety. I've taken my quota for the day, so I'm not allowed to take the 4th one. But I've taken my 3 little happy green pills, and still coming out of this going, I mean, I didn't feel as terrible about the goaltending as everybody else did, probably, because I mean, Husso, a couple of those goals were just stupid deflections. or just cases of utter defensive incompetence. But yeah, you worry. Yeah, you worry when somebody is giving up as many goals as Husso did on the first night, and you worry. I mean, Talbot was good in terms of being a relief goaltender, but he didn't shut the door. And you want your relief goal, you want the guy who comes in as your backup to just absolutely shut the door. And there were still some sketchy moments. You talk about Talbot in the preseason, worried about his rebound control. Things just kind of bouncing off the pads a little funny. The same thing for Husso. That the goal where it just bounced off his leg and right out front, and it was in the back of the net before you knew what was going to happen.
You got to control that. That was
yeah. I mean, even Billy Husso you have to boot that rebound to the corner, or you have to get it out of the way somehow.
It was really frustrating to watch. I mean,
incredibly.
It really was, because obviously we're all pulling for Billy Husso. He missed most of last season, had a great preseason, which is like, all right, the Red Wings got this guy to be their starting goalie. First year, mixed results. Last season, it's kind of a wash, but it's like, all right, he's in the contract year, going to go out and kill it, and he's going to, show everyone that he's a starting goalie. But those 4 goals, those were not pretty. Like, first, I'm going to go through this as a goalie just real quick. But first goal, he was positioned in an RVH on the post, which if you're trying to push laterally from that, you're not going to get a good push. And of course, the play went laterally. He was swimming to try to catch up, and once you know it, Ben Sherratt kicked it in. George, you mentioned the second goal where he just kicked out the rebound right into the slot. You can't be doing that. That is not. That's
a cardinal sin.
It really is for a starting goalie in the NHL. Third goal that's the one where Evgeny Malkin drove wide with I believe it was Mata, Gustafsson, and Patrick Kane kind of just swinging their sticks at him.
Yep. Kane was the last one there, and he didn't do anything. But I mean, that's Patrick Kane. He's not paid to do that.
Yeah, goal or the shooter is wide open in the slot. Nothing Husso can do about it. But that's not the defense you want to see in front of you. And we'll talk more about that in a minute here. But then there was the last goal, just the floater from the point, completely missed it, straight shot, saw it all the way, didn't tip. Man, I don't know if he was in his head or if it was just jitters from getting the opening night start after the year he had last year. But I know we were all really hoping for Husso to have a great game and just get back into it. But yeah, that was not it.
Wasn't elegant. Let's put it that way.
No.
And I think it's really tricky too, because how can you confidently go back to him now for game 2 or even game 3? And then to kind of compound the situation, you do want him to play and eventually play well, because either you want him to eventually kind of get back to that starting role, what you're paying him to be, or you want him to play good enough that you can sell him to somebody else and actually get something for him. So you are in this weird situation where you kind of need to play him, but you also need him to play well. And he hasn't played well in over a year. So something's got to give. I'm very interested to see who starts game 2, because it's not like Talbot came in and shut the door. He was arguably just as leaky. Does Alex Lyon step in for game 2? I don't know. But yeah, as far as Husso's concerned, yeah, like you said, Tony, we're all rooting for him, and it's a shame, because I think maybe he does know there is quite the spotlight on him. He's got a lot to prove this year, not just for his role in Detroit, but his career moving forward for his next contract. He's in the last year of his contract, so he's got to turn things around, because, like you said, Tony, that wasn't it. my Lord, that wasn't it.
Yeah, and I just want to emphasize one more thing that I think Devin and George, you both hit on, is that when it came to Detroit's goaltending, whether it was Husso or Cam Talbot, there were no timely saves. Like, all right, Talbot had a couple, but like Detroit's goalies didn't bail them out. Team defense wasn't helping. Don't get me wrong, but at some point the goalie's got to bail them out. And as a goalie, like I say that I can't just blame the defense for all the goals against.
Even if it was one or two more saves, that something that would give you confidence in the goaltending to especially, like you said, Pittsburgh coming off a 6-0 loss to the Rangers, you want to see something to inspire confidence. I know that sounds campy, but I don't really care. I'm Captain Camp in that regard. So, just competence. That was the thing about tonight. Tonight, the level of the bar was kind of low. It's the home opener. They played 11 billion games in 11 nights. It was 8-11. Then they got their 3 days to prepare, and they got a day off, so they had 4 total preparation days. But it's a home opener. The Tigers are in the playoffs next door, practically kitty corner to the rink, and you're not expecting them to be 100%, thinking about their own game when the bandwagon is pumping as much as it is for the Tigers. No offense, but you wanted them to have a nice 4-3 victory or 5-4 victory or something like that, like a last season stable victory, which by this season's standards is not going to be a 3-1 effort. But I don't know. There was whether it was the goaltending or the team defense or any other portion of the team play, there wasn't that level of plain old bottom line competency that you want to see.
Yeah, and speaking of competency or lack thereof, a big thing that was on my mind entering this game was just the mandate that Steve Yzerman had from the end of last season and even the beginning of this one, that this team needed to be better defensively. A lot of comments, a lot of, thoughts and ideas of how they were going to go about doing that. And, I know I was somebody who thought they needed to go out and get a legitimate one in goal. They didn't do that. They got Cam Talbot, and they're doing the 3-headed thing again. We'll see how that works out. They needed to get another top 4 defenseman. There was all that stuff about Jacob Trouba. They didn't end up doing it. They replaced Shane Gostisbehere with Eric Gustafsson. Early returns are telling me that wasn't a good move. So there weren't really any moves done to actually help them defensively. So that means that the players had to commit more and perform better in the defensive end. And the coaching staff had to kind of rectify some things and do whatever needed to be done to coax out better defensive performance. And again, you don't want to overreact to one game, especially when it's the first game of the season. But all we have to go off of right now in early returns are telling me, boy, do they have a long way to go. If the theme of this season is better defensively, oh my God, we're going to see some big changes by like the end of November, because they were not better. They were, at best, they were equally as bad defensively as they were last season. And you could probably make the argument they were worse because, like you said, George, the bar was pretty low entering this game.
When the team went down, like the effort looked like it just came down. And like, again, it's first game, players are rusty, trying to get back in the swing of things. Effort wasn't like the execution, the effort, the commitment to the game plan. It wasn't apparent. And that's concerning. It's definitely a red flag. Like, sure, game 1, whatever. We'll see how the next few games go, see how this team responds, but not the start you're looking for in terms of team defense and just the overall execution, albeit, with rusty players, not what you want to see. And Devin, I will actually challenge you because I do think Eric Gustafson did replace Shane Gostisbehere pretty well. He got a point on the power play, and he was on the ice for actually more than two, a handful of poor defensive plays. So
1 for 1. Yeah, absolutely.
I was concerned because I liked the way the game started. I felt like they came out with jump. The first period was exciting. They chances on the power play. Tarasenko, DeBrincat had his share of chances, and also obviously potted 2 goals. But they're just once the second period started, it felt like a different team again, and we've played that same old song and dance before, and it's disheartening to see in the first game of the season. You guys know me. I live in the moment, so I'm all up in arms already. But George, what does this team have to do? What do they have to do to come out on Saturday against the Predators?
Boy, I mean, and the Predators that are a much better team, at least on paper. With Stamkos and Marchessault on the team. Man, what do they have to do? When the balloon pops, in terms of their momentum, it can't go all Hindenburg on them. And that's been to me the problem with the team for the last, I don't know how many years, but especially in the last season, was just that when something doesn't go their way, it's not just that the balloon of momentum pops on them. It's that we're talking about, aluminum nitrate fire and fireball and the humanity, and the balloon goes falling to the ground as the superstructure turns into rubble. I mean, for lack of a better term, come on, man. This is a game where you get some bounces that go your way, and you get some bounces that don't go your way, and you need to have better structure. We were going to very specifically talk about team defense here. You need to have guys back checking. You need to have guys buying in to the whole team. I don't know, for lack of a better term, you need to have guys buying into the team work ethic. And you need to see some leadership, and, I'm not going to bag on Dylan Larkin, but, there is a sense that this team is kind of floppy, that there's just the backbone here is a backbone that has some scoliosis to it. And that is the concern for me as well. I know they had only one alternate captain tonight for reasons beyond us. Usually they're supposed to have 2 guys with A's on their jerseys, but they certainly played like they had only one alternate captain, and that was incredibly disappointing.
Tony, you mentioned Jeff Petrie, who also left the game tonight with an upper body injury, how he got bailed out on that goal for the hand pass review, where he was completely out of place, but it looked like he also took looked like they took a stick to the face or somewhere upper body. If he's out this week, we're going to see Albert Johansson's debut on Saturday?
That's my interpretation, unless it's the Red Wings didn't say what exactly happened to Jeff Petrie, except for the fact that it was a upper body injury, and who knows, by the time this episode comes out Friday morning, we might have more clarity on that. But if he's out for a long time, we could see Justin Hull up with the Red Wings again, and who knows, maybe he's in the lineup. But I would like to see Albert Johansson given the opportunity, just to this. He's been a Red Wings prospect since 2019, and it's about time to get in.
5 years, yeah.
So it would be great to see him against Nashville. Overall, team definitely needs to come out with a little bit more fire and consistency throughout the game for them to, get the win that we were hoping to see tonight. But yeah, again, and guys, I know we've kind of been doom and gloom about this throughout the episode, but it is one game. there is definitely a red flag about the issues from last year being issues yet again, even though they've been mandates, they've been priorities, but it's been one game, we'll see how the next few against the Predators and Rangers go before we can really make an indictment on the season.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's going to the haunted house and getting scared by the same 4 or 5 boring ghosts that spooked you last time. Just watching the pregame, look the language or the postgame, I've got it on mute, so we're doing that because we're doing this right after the game. But you're watching the guys kind of go, it's the same body language as last year, even. But yeah, this was as bad a first loss as you could get because it was everything that the Red Wings said that they were going to fix. It was everything that the Red Wings said that they were going to address, that they were going to face down, have their team meetings about, do their video scouts, improve the personnel, powder their noses differently, everything from your stick flex on to how you tie your skate laces, that this was going to be everybody doing things differently and better. And instead it was the same, if not worse.
This is the type of loss that, to kind of piggyback off of the point of it, everything was the same. This is the type of loss that you feel a lot better about if the roster had been a bit more overhauled over the summer, or maybe there were more kids in the lineup. If Johansson's playing tonight, if Marco Kasper made the roster, Berggren plays more than he did, then you probably feel a little bit better about this because it's kids making mistakes. You expect it. You kind of get that little buffer. But because they're, really the only kid that actually played was Simon Edvinsson, because Berggren was playing fourth line minutes, not really trusted to do a whole lot. And Johansson just straight up didn't play. It's veterans that are making mistakes that they shouldn't, that they're in the lineup because they don't make those mistakes. So for me, I think, put Albert Johansson in next game, because at the very least, if things go sideways, you at least have an excuse of the kid. It might not even be him who makes mistakes, but if you have more youth in the lineup, you kind of get that leeway. But when you're loading up on veterans year after year, you're not supposed to make these mistakes again and again and again. It shouldn't be the same song and dance if your roster is pretty much the exact same with just a couple of tweaks here and there. I guess that's probably the main reason why they are the same mistakes, is because it's the same. But yeah, they need. I'm out of conflict here because, like we've said, it's game one. You don't want to overreact, and as much as this game sucked, next week there might be a game where the Red Wings are on the opposite end of this and they completely throttle a team. That's hockey. That's literally what happens over the course of an 82-game season. But I like the way you put it, Tony. Already seeing red flags. And I guess it's just a matter of how they address them. Are they going to double down on veterans and bring up Hall? I low-key think they're going to do that, because that just seems to be what they like to do. But I'd be very happy to be wrong about that. And it's not just because I'm a big believer in Albert Johansson, and I think that he's the type of player that can maybe add some calm energy to that blue line, because Lord knows there was very little calm energy on that blue line tonight.
I think the hardest part for me is, it's just the long off season and waiting, and then to come out just flat like that. It's really disappointing for the fans and for the media and for everyone involved in the organization. One thing I'm not worried about though with this team is going to be the scoring. I thought tonight there was a chance that maybe we could have, outscored
Outscored the mistakes.
Yep, outscored the mistakes, which is something that we've talked about in the past. That can't rely on that. That's just, you're not going to have a successful season when you try to do that. But Tony, you wrote an article today in the Hockey Writers with your scoring projections for the team, and I want to get into that in a little bit. So get out of this doom and gloom we're going over through here. But talk to me about your article today, and what are your scoring projections for this team as we head into the season?
Yeah, so I put together a statistical model to predict, how each of the Red Wings players would score this season, and yeah, nice to see Alex DeBrincat get 3 points to get a little closer to what I predicted, and Raymond had a couple of assists as well. But yeah, I mean, overall, in theory, we shouldn't see a massive drop off in scoring, especially if these defensive woes continue. They're gonna have to try to outscore their mistakes, as you said. So scoring should continue to be up. But even with the departures of David Perron and Shane Gostis-Bear and Robbie Fabry and Daniel Sprong, I'm not seeing too much of a drop off, especially with Patrick Kane, Jonathan Berggren, and Simon Edvinsson being up with the team, for the duration of the season.
I don't know. We talked about the depth scoring and this concept that maybe if you want to succeed, we're not talking about a fourth line per se, as we are talking about a grinding line. You look at Berggren and Veleno together. What can they do? What can Tyler Mott provide to that group? I really like Tyler Mott's work ethic and the way that he can open up the ice for those guys. So I guess those two, they're the guys I'm curious about.
Yeah, so Veleno, I kind of have him scoring at a similar pace as last year, playing that fourth line, not fourth line, but specialist line that's fourth on the depth chart. Playing that for most of the season with a little bit of time in the top six, a little bit of time on the third line, with injuries that will eventually happen. But ultimately had him scoring 12 goals and 13 assists for 25 points in 74 games. And a little bearish on Tyler Mott in comparison, just seeing how he performed the last few seasons. Really only had 6 goals and 7 assists in 72 games. And honestly, I like the chances he had today. I do think Berggren on their line with his power play time, he's going to end up having a great season on his proven contract that he has, much like we saw last year with Joe Veleno. I could easily see him topping 40 points this year.
George, I'm curious what you saw at Berggren tonight. He's a player we've been talking about a lot this offseason and where his fit will be in with the team. But what did you see out of him tonight that either concerns you or doesn't concern you?
Well, I thought that he fit in pretty well as somebody who's going to be a two-way player, and I think that is the key for him, at least in terms of gaining coaches' trust. Bleh, excuse me, but gaining the trust of the coaches, so that we see him play a little more consistently, so that we can see him continue to get the special teams time that he merits, I guess, at this point in his career, and given his performances when he's been on special teams. So he was all right. I mean, for as far as a group of guys who completely underperformed as a 20-man roster, 2 goalies, 18 skaters, everybody touched the ice. Let me take a peek real quick at his stats. Let's see what Johnny Burgers did. We've got 1153 played, +1, 2 shot attempts, 1 shot, 1 giveaway, and a blocked shot. And for the first game, that's fine. I didn't like the way that they utilized that line as really the fourth line, and they tried to roll 3, but that's just personal preference there.
Devin, I'm coming to you next. The power play looked pretty effective in that first period, and they did have a lot of shots. Overall, what did you think about the power play? I know you're not a big a fan as Gustafson as you were as Ghost the Bear. I thought he was okay tonight. I thought he moved the puck well, and I know he has chemistry with Kane. But what did you see out of the power play units, the first and the second tonight?
Well, I saw good puck movement. I honestly, I guess to really sum it up, I saw a lot of the same good things that we saw last season, just in terms of moving the puck around, trying to get good looks, setting up good shots. Um, I think that we saw the fruits of that a few times. I do think, yeah, I agree. I think that Gus kind of showed why they brought him in as the Goss Bear replacement. Um, I do, I'm guilty of it, but I'm already kind of thinking about Edvinsson in that spot at some point because, I don't know, I just think there's a bit more upside there. But I think that you're going to see a lot of the same stuff that you did last year, and it's not a bad thing because the power play actually was pretty good last year. I think it's just going to be a matter of you know Gustafson gelling with his newer teammate. He's got some established chemistry with DeBrincat and Kane already, but he's got to figure out how Larkin likes his passes and Raymond and whoever else he's going to play with. And um, I did think that Berggren kind of in one game looks like he might just kind of be a power play merchant this season, which I guess that's okay. I don't know that um, that is how I would utilize him, but got to get him his minutes somehow, I guess, right? Um, I don't know. I think that it looked fine. I think it looked the same as last season, and I think that of all the things that went bad for them tonight, that wasn't one of them. And I guess if they're looking for things to maybe build on to build some confidence, what went right, I would say the power play is probably in that category. Probably need to work on efficiency a little bit more and whatnot, but that'll come with time. That'll come with looks and whatever. I'm not really that concerned about the power play after game one.
What did you think about Cider on the second unit and maybe possibly increasing his usage overall on the power play?
You know, again, I didn't mind him. I think he's somebody that could do it. I understand why they don't have him on the top power play and why they haven't had him on the top power play in a while. But I think that he's shown in his time since he's joined the Red Wings that he has good offensive instincts. It's just maybe not the top skill in his toolkit. He moves the puck well, and he's all effort on that blue line too. There were a lot of I'm pretty sure they're all 5-on-5, but there were a lot of just extra efforts he had to keep the puck in the zone, keep the play alive. And I think that even going back to last season when we saw Gossespierre do the Jordan jump and keep the play alive, I think you need guys in that blue line that just find ways to extend possession and keep the play alive. And I think Sider has proven he's that type of player time and time again. I don't know he necessarily had to do that tonight on the power play, but I think that he can do it. And I think that um, he might be somebody who looks better on the power play when he's playing with the top guys. He looks pretty good when he's passing to Tarasenko and Bergeron. I think he'd look even better when he's passing to Patrick Kane and Alex Brinket. So, yeah, I'm encouraged by what I saw from Sider in game one, and I think that um, there's, at least in my opinion, there's no reason to take him off quite yet.
Yeah, and he had his decision making was pretty solid on the power play. Like for the options that he had and where he moved the puck and how he positioned himself, like there was nothing that I really disagreed with. I think that for quarterbacking the second power play unit, he did everything right that he was supposed to, and narrowly missed the power play point by split second of the penalty expiring before Tarasenko's goal went in. But I wouldn't mind seeing him on the first power play unit at some point. I feel like with just his handedness is probably better for getting Lucas Raymond and Alex DeBrink had one-timers from their flank, but that's just my opinion.
And real quickly, 26-43. What's that number, guys?
Yuri Hoodler and Darren Helm.
No, that was Sider's deployment again tonight. 26-43. That's how much time on ice he had tonight. Next closest defender was Eric Gustafson at 2011. So we're already off to the Moritz Sider overusage.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of that's probably, Petrie going down, but I do think that just kind of compounds the fact that this blue line is, at least right now, it's Sider and the rest of the gang. I think there's time that Edvinsson will be more than just part of the gang, but right now, Sider's very clearly your top defender, and for better or for worse, I think he's going to be force-fed a lot of minutes because they kind of have no choice.
Well, guys, I'm starting to feel my heart rate to drop a little. I'm not as angry as I was when we first. It was only one game, but you know what? It's a long season, and I you guys know me. I like to overreact, but wasn't the start we all wanted. But hey, we're going to be right back at it on Saturday. So that's all the time we have for today, guys. And again, guys, thanks for getting together. I know it's late on a Thursday night for you guys. It's only 8:30 here for me, so I still got some time to go. But thanks everyone for joining us. And again, you can find us on YouTube. You can also find us on iTunes and Spotify or wherever you get your podcast, and follow us on Twitter and Threads at Flying Octopus. At Flying Octopus, sorry guys, I cannot speak. We'll be back next Thursday for another episode, and hopefully we're talking about something a little more upbeat, not as bad as what we saw tonight. So game 1's in the books, boys. It was our first game to recap, and let's hope for a better turnout next week. So with that, guys, all right, with that, guys, we'll see you next week. Thanks for watching the Flying Octopus.
Thanks for listening to the Flying Octopus podcast. Follow us on YouTube at the Flying Octopus channel and Twitter at Flying Octopod.